What did we learn from that game between the Celtics and the 76ers yesterday?
I'm going to throw something out, D. Jones, Max out. I want you to keep it in context. Keep it in context. As I watched that game, Philadelphia should have won the game. They let the game slip by. And there's one big problem. There's one big thing they keep fighting. And I want you to hear this. Keep it in context. Brett Brown may have to consider benching Ben Simmons in the fourth quarter. And I say that for spacing purposes. Is it Embiid? No. He can shoot threes. He can get it done on the block. You got a closer in Jimmy Butler. But if I need a bucket, last night, Ben Simmons gets in the way. If you're not going to put the ball in his hands because he won't take a jumper, he's been reluctant to take jumpers, and you put him in a short corner, now he gets in Embiid's way. He's in the short corner, Embiid's short rolling, and you got one guy guarding two. And in today's NBA, it's all about spacing. Now, I'm not saying there's much to stand in for him. I'm throwing in T.J. McConnell, as a matter of fact, maybe another shooter. But right now, as constructed, Ben Simmons may have to finish games on the offensive end, if I'm going offense-defense, on the bench.
If you want to talk about the problems that the Sixers have, I didn't really learn anything in that game. I can't say I learned anything. I knew that Kyrie has the ability to hit a peak performance that very few players really who ever lived have been able to operate on that level. He doesn't, and we were chopping it up after the show yesterday, he doesn't do it consistently enough, right? Okay, but when the spotlight is on him, he does. He's a high leverage moment kind of player, as we were discussing. Rondo is also, right? But I already knew that. I already knew Simmons couldn't shoot. Then he turns into an off-the-ball kind of power forward and not a stretch four in the playoffs. And the Celtics did it to him again, right? Like, you can do that to him because not only can't he shoot, he won't shoot the ball. I already knew that Embiid, if you want to talk about what's really inhibited his progress, he's a top 10 player. His progress toward maybe being the best player in the world, you'd think it's in him, right? More than anything, okay, he doesn't shoot the three well enough, and he takes a bunch of them, which he's not happy about. The pick-and-roll defense isn't good enough. Like, it's just not good enough. It was bad yesterday, right? Like, but I knew all that stuff already going into this game. I already knew the Celtics are better than the Sixers. I think Toronto's better than both of them. I think Milwaukee's the wild card. But it's not like I came out of that game going, aha, now I understand. No, it's everything that we've already known about these two teams.
Well, what I took from the game is what I took once the trade was made from Kyrie going from Cleveland to Boston, is that Brad Stevens, during the course of the game, is going to run all this movement stuff to get different guys involved. But when the game's on the line, Kyrie Irving is going to do what he did in Cleveland, and that's iso ball, pick and roll, and he's going to shoot almost every time, okay? And that's good for them because you get the other guys involved throughout the first 3.5 quarters. Then the fourth quarter, Uncle Drew gets a chance to take over. Now, going to your point, I don't think you sit Ben Simmons on the bench, okay? I think what you do is you put him, he gets the rebound, he pushes, tries to get some things in transition. If he could do that, fine. If he can't, then you have Jimmy Butler entering the basketball to Embiid and putting Ben Simmons on the weak side, okay? So if you double team the basketball with Embiid when he's trying to score at the end of games, then you have Ben Simmons slashing to the basket. That makes him more effective. I don't think you take him off the floor because he passes the ball too well and he pushes the ball in transition.
Well, D. Jones, you know, last 2 minutes of the game, it's rare that you actually get transition. He actually went to the hole, got fouled, last 2 minutes. You know, he's always saying, don't expect a foul.
Right.
And if you post up, you can't post to close out games. You got to operate from the perimeter. You know what I'm saying? And that's what Jimmy Buckets has done well.
You can't bench Simmons for a very simple reason. Anyone who thinks the Sixers...
So would you rather lose? Would you rather just lose?
This is the reason. This is the reason. Anyone who thinks the Sixers have a chance to win a championship this year is insane. They don't, because they don't have enough shooting. Again, the number one problem, you're of course right, it's clear, Simmons not only can't shoot, he won't even try to shoot. Okay, wait, that's one. Two, Embiid doesn't shoot it well enough, and he has certain, even though he's a great defensive player, in the modern game, some of the things we thought he could do in the modern game defensively well, like better than like a guy like Okafor when he was coming out, he can do well, but still not well enough. But the number one thing is Simmons doesn't shoot, and Butler's not a great shooter. So those are their three best players. There's not enough shooting. So because of that, is it more important to develop Simmons, or is it more important to try to get to the second round of the playoffs where you probably get anyway?
See, I see it different.
I have an answer right now that helps the Philadelphia 76ers shoot the basketball better.
Okay.
And he's sitting in Cleveland, J.R. Smith. And this is a guy that's a high-volume shooter, and he's made big shots in big games in playoff situations. And he's just sitting there in exile in Cleveland, and he needs to get out of there. And I'm telling you right now, Philly, if you're looking for a shooter that can
Facts.
make big shots and will take it when the game's on the line, he's the guy
By the way,
to do it.
Simmons, you know who he's like, and we talked on the show yesterday? Simmons is LeBron light. He does a lot of things that LeBron James does, but he can't shoot. But he's got a better handle than LeBron. He has court vision that's similar to LeBron. He's big like LeBron. He can penetrate. He was at times last year. Let's just remember, at least what I was thinking, if not many, it looked like Simmons and Antetokounmpo. Like he's kind of like almost Greek freakish in a way. What happens if he starts to shoot? Well, not only has he not kind of evolved, into a shooter or even a guy who's going to attempt shots. If anything, there's been a little bit of regression with Simmons. I mean, that's really the issue that the Sixers have right now.
But you got to hear this. Philly was actually better than I expected. With Wilson Chandler back, they did shoot the ball well.
Right.
They actually, pound for pound, beat Boston, but Kyrie just did something special. And in terms of Boston, I'm less impressed with them. Kyrie had to go get 40. I don't know if you depend on that. The whole idea of this Brad Stevens system would be Kyrie playmaking, scoring, and you're in a situation where you got to pick your poison. That's what makes Golden State so hard to play against. But I just less impressed with
Hayward
Boston.
is not the same after the injury. Horford is hurt and hasn't played well all year. We're forgetting, as much as we talk about Boston's depth, in fact, what made them look special was the starting five. You said, hold up. All these cats are on the same team because in Hayward's absence, you got Brown and Tatum developing. Now you have this starting five, and all the pieces seem to fit, but in reality, they didn't fit so well. And Hayward's not the same player, and Horford's not the same player, just like physically. That's really the issue in Boston.